Hi, everyone. My name is Shoshana Mostoller, and I'm the Director of Programs for My Dog is My Home. I would love to introduce you to our speakers today, Gae Greene and Monica Quezada. Monica serves as Senior Director of Interim Housing LA programs. She joined PATH with 25 years of experience working with nonprofit organizations, which has fueled her passion for helping to shape and develop programs serving individuals and families experiencing homelessness. Monica has assisted in the development and implementation of multiple large-scale pilots and programs in Los Angeles County targeted at assisting individuals experiencing homelessness. Programs include the Access for Housing for Health pilot, the 10th Decile project, Skid Row Coordinated Entry System pilot project, the SPA 4 Silver Lake Westlake CES expansion, and various Measure H funded programs and Project Roomkey. Monica holds a bachelor's degree in social work from Mount St. Mary's University, and she has been involved in several publications, including the 10th Decile project conducted by the Corporation for Supportive Housing and Economic Roundtable, the randomized study of the use of screening, brief intervention and referral to treatment for drug and alcohol use with jail inmates conducted by UCLA and the Homeless Healthcare Los Angeles. In her free time, Monica spends time with her family and her dog Jojo, traveling and attending sporting events. Gae Greene is also joining us today. Gae lives in Los Angeles with her beautiful dog Sheena. She enjoys cooking, reading, and spending time playing with Sheena. Gae has worked as an addiction therapist and has shared her lived experience of homelessness with her dog through My Dog Is My Home. So today you're joining us for lived experience, Gae and Sheena. For many people experiencing homelessness, pets are family and a critical source of safety and stability. Yet housing providers often say we can't allow pets. During today's session, Gae Greene will share her lived experience of being unhoused with her pet Sheena in conversation with Monica. And then many of you know, My Dog Is My Home began our journey over 10 years ago by celebrating art and stories for people experiencing homelessness with their pets. We're dedicated to storytelling and learning from the expertise of people who have experienced homelessness with their pets. So thank you, Gae, for joining us today and sharing for us. And so I'm going to let you take it away.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Well, my name is Gae, and my experience with my homelessness began in regards to my homelessness began in 2023. I experienced homelessness due to drug addiction and mental illness, and I at that time acquired a puppy, Sheena, and um, so we were living in my car for a while. Um, and then I tried numerous attempts to um, get treatment at different places, and I went on a waiting list. But in the meantime, I'm having Sheena with me, and we're living in my car. We're scrambling to food banks. We're just doing everything we can to survive. And it's was like almost pertinent that I keep her with me because is considered a family member to me, and she's like my child. And she also went through a lot of trauma because we were unstable. She didn't have regular food to eat, and so it was a really traumatic time. And then I was blessed to be able to get into a shelter called Exodus Safe Landing, which allowed me to bring her with me because at that point there was no way I was going to go on without Sheena because I had had her since she was 10 weeks old, and there was just no way. So she went with me to the shelter, and we were able to get a bed, and we stayed there for about 12 days. And she got back into feeling, comfortable and warm and safe again. She still has some kind of like PTSD. And so I had to, give her encouragement and love and attention to help her get through her emotional phases that she went through. And we were bonding at that time again, and she was beginning to trust me. And she has always been a very big part of my mental healing because in the meantime, in this particular time in my life, I had lost my son, and she was there with me through the entire situation. And and then after we were at the first shelter, we went to PATH, and we were transferred to PATH, and PATH was such a great experience. I mean, PATH was great. I went right in. We got uh, uh, gifted with all our essentials. Sheena was given food and attention, and I was getting my mental health, and everything was being provided for us, and we were able to rest. We were able to start a new life. I was able to remain clean and sober, and I began to make goals and have aspirations for myself. And I was able to be safe and live safely without fear. And Sheena was so happy and got to meet other dogs. And she and I were progressing through this phase together. And she's huge. It was a huge part of my recovery and my transitioning into a better life. And I just couldn't see any way of leaving her behind. And it's been such a wonderful experience. We were blessed with an apartment after just 76 days. Kath was fantastic and very much on top of the paperwork and everything that I needed to get moved on to the next permanent housing situation. And so we went into that, and we've been here at our apartment almost 2 years. And I've been staying in close contact with Shoshana, who I consider a um, very close friend of mine and a confidant. And we just have had just a great experience. And she's behind me sleeping right now and scratching. But I just really, am so grateful that I was able to make this change through dealing with the death of my family and, you know, watching, watching my dog go through all this and then have her bounce back so well because of all the love and attention that I was able to give to her. And we were able to stay together during all of this. It made a tremendous difference in both of our lives, and our lives couldn't be better today.
Thank you, Gae, for sharing that. I really appreciate your story and I appreciate you. And I'm wondering, you spoke to why it was so important for you to have Sheena with you in terms of emotional support, in terms of safety. And so now you've been housed for 2 years and both of you are very stable. So can you imagine, like, let us all know how you feel like your life would be different if you weren't able to have Sheena with you when you went to PATH?
I'll tell you the first thing that would be different is I wouldn't have that sense of responsibility because my children were grown and I didn't have the situation of having to look after my children anymore. My other children were grown, and having Sheena has kept me having someone to love, having someone there with me, having a best friend with me, and I almost felt like she felt everything and knew everything we were going to, as if she was human. And having that loyalty and that trust, and having that companionship was essential to me. Because had I not had that with her, I don't know that I would really have been able to stay as strong and as focused. But I knew that I had a responsibility to her. She depended on me, and I loved her, and I wanted to make sure that I took good care of her. And that was part of my healing, is to be able to give back to my animal all that she's given me, and that encouraged and helped my life move forward towards other areas in my life. So she was essential to my transition. Essential.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Monica, with your work with PATH, your shelter is fully pet inclusive. So I'm wondering if you could talk about what the practical first steps that a shelter could take if they wanted to become pet inclusive themselves.
Yeah. First and foremost, Gabe, it's so wonderful to see you.
You as well.
Your smile still radiates. I just want to say, love to see you. Um, I think there's a lot of exciting things. Number one, I also want to share that Path has actually been leading this space for a long time. In the early 2000s, almost 25 years ago, we opened a shelter in Hollywood. And what we knew then, oh my God, we would never do now. But we actually had kennels on the in the ground garage because we knew how important animals were, and so we tried it out. Um, Again, the garage was fully closed and safe and gated, but we were doing this back in the early, 2000s. And so I think we've kind of progressed in how we treat our animals. And I think a few kind of first steps towards becoming pet inclusive. I think number one, establishing and coordinating tour shelters with or set up virtual meetings with service providers that are co-sheltering. I think that's really important. Don't be scared and afraid to ask all the scary questions and scenarios that you can think of. I think I've been in multiple meetings where I've heard, I think, everything underneath the sun. So whatever you are worried about, please, please, do that and set up those virtual meetings to get you going. Secondly, one of the things that we recently did is update our job descriptions and the job functions to include verbiage, to provide support for top participant service animals, emotional support animals, and pets, which include distributing animal food, litter, crates, and other pet supplies. One of the things that we found over the years, the folks were saying, I'm allergic to animals. So I think up front, it's important to share that in your job description that you may be working with animals. So that's a decision that could be made by the individual when they're interviewing. Secondly, thirdly, it's really critical to develop an animal policy, a clear and concise, again, trauma-informed language, using trauma-informed care language for program participants from day one to really understand what's expected when you bring an animal in and their responsibilities. So ensuring the animal policy consists of what the animal handler must adhere to. Ensuring that there is an emergency contact for the animal should an actual owner go missing, AWOL, is hospitalized or incarcerated. I think that's also critical and important. Is there an emergency contact? Also a basic animal intake. I think we take for granted that we don't also ask about the animal, right? So get to know the animal, the age, the breed. Does the animal have health conditions as well, right? Are there any behaviors or triggers for the animals? And I think what you also heard from Gae is that her animal had lots of triggers. And so we often see that a lot of our um, participants are coming in with trauma, but animals also have trauma as well. So taken into consideration, are there any things, if somebody gets too close, if somebody hears noise, like what are those triggers? So sort of a basic animal intake as the animal is coming in as well. And there's two more that I can think of is pet supplies. Utilizing your philanthropic department, donation department, community affairs department to bring in donations such as animal food or supplies. As nonprofits, if we have nonprofits in here, often schools and organizations and companies reach out to inquire how they can support. And I say have an animal drive, and that animal drive could be collecting food, leashes, harnesses, flea treatments, animal toys, pet waste bags. So there's different ways. And then last but not least, on all our contracts, we are required to take in animals and pets. And so we develop an animal supply line item in every budget. It's small, but it does cover the basic necessities for animals, cat litter, dog food. And so I think that's really critical. So those are kind of my big five, you know, items that will help you to become pet inclusive.
Thank you, Monica. I appreciate that. This question is for both of you. And maybe, Gae, if you want to start. One thing that we talk about a lot are the myths around pets and homelessness. So I'm wondering if there are specific myths that you think need to be dismantled about people who are experiencing homelessness with their pets.
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest one for me is the fact that people seem to think that when they've encountered people that are homeless with animals, that they just have to uh, find solutions for the human, which is very untrue. These animals are here on this earth, and we are the caretaker of the animals, as we've been appointed as the caretakers. And people have to understand that in order for this world to go around in a beautiful way, is that we have to take care of all living beings. And animals are very much, we've taken them out of their element, and it's up to us to provide for them what we've taken them away from. And I think it's just um, really ridiculous how people think that, we could just take care of the human and make sure they have a home and we'll just discard the dog. The dog and the human have an emotional attachment, a bond, and another part of it is people seem to think that homeless people don't take care of their dogs, which is very not true. Most of the time, as a homeless person, I always made sure that she ate if I didn't. I used to take the coat off my back when it was cold and we were outside sleeping on porches and stuff and put them on Sheena, and I would go out many, many times. So, you know, that's just those are myths that really, really need to be broken.
Thank you, Gae. And it doesn't surprise me that you took the coat off of your back because every picture you send me of Sheena, she's wearing something.
Yes,
She's wearing a tutu. She's wearing something.
a
So
sombrero.
thank Thanks, Gae. So, Monica, do you have any thoughts about other myths that need to be dismantled regarding pets and homelessness?
That they will tear up your place. I think that is one of the biggest ones that I often hear, that they're so scared of, the liability. And as I mentioned, happy to, get on calls with folks, and I'd love to hear every scary thing that you got that someone may be thinking about. But I think the biggest one is that they will destroy and harm, other folks, and also the facility. So that's a big one.
Yeah. And that makes sense. And that's one thing that I think you and I have discussed a lot is, concerns that organizations have, like, Gae was speaking from the point of view of a person experiencing homelessness, and you're speaking more from the point of view of like, hey, what are myths that shelters might be dealing with in terms of trying to start co-sheltering? And I think you're right. You already mentioned allergies at one point, and you mentioned, I think the facility being destroyed just now. So I'm just wondering, when people come to you and they have those concerns, how would you address that with a another shelter that is interested in becoming, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. You and I talked a lot about resourcefulness.
Mhm.
Okay. And so I would love for you to address how to be resourceful in situations like that, and then maybe give an example of a time that you guys had. And I'm jumping ahead a little bit, so I apologize for that,
Yeah.
but give an example of a time that you had to be resourceful at PATH.
Yeah. I think I have by the way, one of my associate directors said, "Hey, you have a new name in the department." I said, "Oh, what's my new name?" Well, it's not senior director, it's problem solver, because you seem to always be problem solving, and you won't stop a policy, or you won't um, weed something out or dismantle something. You're going to figure it out. And I think I'll give you a perfect example. And this happened, I want to say it's almost a little less than a year ago. We had an animal that ran across the street, and in one of our hotel motel settings, pretty busy street, and was struck by a car. And immediately the owner ran. Um, and the dog passed immediately. The dog, she would not let go of the dog and took the dog with her into her room and literally cradled the dog for hours. And my team was really trying to work with her to support her and understand that this was a very sensitive situation. And we even wrapped Department of Mental Health, in the situation, as it was pretty intense. And so my team said, "Monica, what can we do? We're going on hour number 6. And I said, "Well, um, we do have built out, a pet line item in our budget This is kind of outside of what we normally do, but ask the funder if we can get approval to cremate the dog and provide the, you know, a little nice um, plaque and the whole 9 yards. This animal meant the world to this individual and had been with them like over 15 years. And so I can only imagine. And so after time, she's like, "Oh, we got the approval." And of course, it's, I think, it's kind of outside of typically a request, but we ask for the request in the spirit of ensuring that we are trauma informed and supporting this client through a very difficult time. We are asking for approval to cremate the dog and be able to offer the participant the ashes and a plaque and so forth. And we had the pricing and everything, and it was approved. The minute it was approved, and it was done pretty quick, we went back to the actual participant and we shared the news with the participant. And slowly she was okay because she knew the dog was still going to be with her. Not alive, obviously, but with ashes and a nice encasement and so forth. So it was trying to think through trauma and how at that moment 16 years went in a different direction, and this person was getting ready to be housed with their animal, right? So I think that was one example of quickly navigating a situation that was tough, right? And moving towards figuring out what could we do in this situation. I think that's many. I think I have those. I think that one speaks to me because often we don't really think about that, and how often does that actually happen? It does frequently happen that person may not be struck. We've had also individuals that have had animals that have been with them for many years and they're struggling with health conditions and then they expire. So those are kind of things, again, Path, I'm so prideful that we lead with compassion and understanding. And so that was one example of how we became very resourceful.
I appreciate you sharing that. And I also appreciate there's a couple of times now you've mentioned how important that you feel like the pet inclusivity is to being trauma informed overall in your program. So I, appreciate that your program specifically looks at including pets as part of being trauma informed with your participants. So that's fantastic. I'm wondering, Gae, Monica just shared about a time that they supported someone a little bit outside of the box of what they normally do. Do you think, when you think back to your time with Path, is there a specific time that you think of that you felt really seen and really supported during that process?
Oh, absolutely. When I was going through, when I first got there, my finances weren't really that for sure. So what I had to do was I didn't know how I was going to go about getting food and stuff for Sheena, and I went to Vanessa, who is one of the path counselors, and I asked for help, and they came uh, full full-fledged with everything I needed, all the essentials. They gave me everything that I would need for Sheena. And they weren't aware that I needed these things because I do carry myself like I'm very independent. So a person would never know that I ever needed anything because I just don't ask. But I asked and they were prepared to do all kinds of things for me. They also gave me a referral for her veterinary services. And then there was a situation where Sheena was kind of had like a confrontation with another dog, and they came in and they handled it very, very fairly, and they were very considerate to us two women that were involved in it, and really de-escalated the situation. And I could tell that that came from a place of compassion and experience, and it was great. I didn't feel like I had to run because being homeless, when there was confrontations and different things, and people were interjected in it and everything, it just automatically I would feel like I have to run because I have to get away. But I didn't feel that at all. I felt very comfortable, very relieved. Everything de-escalated, and it was bright new day the next day.
I love that. I love
And
that.
Monica also, let me tell you, I have to say this. Monica has been a pillar of strength for me because she reminds me of one of my family members, my grandmother, because of her strength and her stature. Just she stands. When I look at her, she reminds me of somebody that's very confident and very faith filled. And I used to love running into her because I knew that if I go to Monica with anything, that the problem was going to get solved. I never felt like I had was rejected by her or anything. So she was a very big part of me even staying at Pat. I
Thank
have
you
to
for
say.
sharing that. Thank you for
Mhm.
sharing that, Gae. I know that means a lot to Monica.
Yeah.
Monica, I'm wondering what partnerships that you have that assist Path with co-sheltering.
I have to give out some special shout outs, and I hope they are in the audience, although I can't see anybody. We have two amazing partnerships. I think we have way more than that, definitely for sure. But the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. We've partnered with ASPCA on a number of amazing wellness clinics, spay and neutering clinics. I have the pleasure of overseeing 18 shelters all over LA County, from family shelters, all women, and co-ed. And so they have a structured number of clinics for us. And then we also have a large department with permanent supportive housing. So we've kind of tag team at some locations to also bring the animals that are currently residing in permanent housing to also these clinics. So super shout out. They do great work, wellness clinics, vaccination, microchipping, flea treatment, nail trimming. I mean, just fabulous. So we try to get them on a quarterly basis because we know animals are coming in. So they are amazing. Also, Project Street Vet. I have to say, Project Street Vet is amazing, and my team rant and rave about them. A little bit different because they don't come in with a mobile, but they come with a group of volunteers, and they come in and they create kind of a clinic, and sort of the same thing, the wellness clinics, the exams, the vaccinations, the flea treatment. So they are also another important partner with Pat. So those two are really critical. And I'm just going to say that partnerships make a world of a difference where you feel I don't have resources. And also reaching out to like local, we're constantly getting, and we are a big organization all over the state of California. So we are constantly getting individuals, companies, and so forth reaching out to partner for products or food. And so building that network of partnerships is also really important.
Yeah, thank you. Gabe, when you were out of shelter, you had some extra resources that you got for Sheena as well. Do you want to talk about that a little bit about some of the extra stuff that you got after Sheena, after you were
Oh,
living in housing already?
absolutely, absolutely. Well, I have to say that it wouldn't have been possible without the assistance of your organization. I'll tell you that. My dog is my home is the reason why I have been extendedly blessed. Sheena has, through my dog is my home and you, Shoshana, I've been able to get referrals to other different agencies that have provided Sheena with food.
Mhm.
I've gotten several dog beds for Sheena, toys. She's gotten vaccinated. She's gotten chipped, and
Mhm.
she got spayed and neutered. And all of this was for free. It was at no
Right.
cost to myself. Yes.
Yeah. So the spay and neuter was through Michelson's Found Animals, I believe, their spay and neuter initiative, and then
Yes.
Better Together Forever, I believe, got you guys a bed. So
Yes.
that's great that continue to have support even now that you're housed. So that's wonderful.
Yes. And one more thing, I've also
Uh-huh.
been given a like a coupon for Sheena to get groomed through one of the organizations. I can't remember. It was during the other conference. The gentleman approached me with a card. I can't remember the name of it, but there's been so many things.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah, so I'm wondering if there's anything, Monica, what are the things that you don't have enough of? Like, what are the biggest struggles in terms of co-sheltering?
Um, I think I definitely would like to say that we were a grantee through the California Pet Assistance Grant for many years. And so, with that specific grant, we actually hired an animal coordinator. It's almost like a case manager specifically dedicated for the animals and running point on distribution of food and supplies. So, since we have so many animals, I think some of the things that that pet assistance grant was able to do was really cover a lot of costs, thousands of dollars for actual hospitalizations or any kind of emergency treatment. Like I mentioned, we were able to build out a small amount in our budgets, but again, it's not as big as what we had before. So definitely the grant money was a significant. It also was a reason why some animals could move on and some couldn't, right? So being able to have that funding is also important for veterinarian costs for emergencies. So I think that's what we don't have enough of. But again, we heavily rely on our partners to, brainstorm, problem solve with us when we have critical cases that come up.
So I do have a few questions from the audience. And I do want to say too, there is a session on the past. Monica just mentioned the past grant that was in California. There is going to be a session that we have today that's going to be discussing the past grant in more detail for those who are interested in it. So hopefully you'll join for that if anyone has interest in that grant specifically. So one of the questions that is asked from the audience is, what do you do if an animal does not have an emergency contact? And I'm going to add on to that. And also, if you can't reach a contact and there is an emergency, how does PATH handle that situation?
That is a very good, a really good. We have had situations where during the time of an intake, there has been I don't name somebody, and then throughout the time through case management, um, somebody who loves animals or has another animal has also said, "Hey, just in case something happens with this person, I can also be an emergency contact." So it's also part of the form that they would also include. But there also has been situations where there absolutely is not one. I am actually currently dealing with one of those right now where somebody is incarcerated. And my staff said, Monica, what are we doing? So we do have a policy that we hold on to the animal for about 72 hours, and then we work with um, the local animal control agency. Um, if we cannot care for the animal because and that's also part of our policy. Um, and for the most part, here in LA, they will hold an animal for 30 or sometimes 60 days. And so if the person does return back, they can get the animal there. I know it sounds horrible, but we also are not in a place where we can take full control of an animal. So we've also built that into the policy.
Yeah, thank you. One of this question I know you have a story about because I've heard it before. So, this person is asking how you handle an animal coming in that is pregnant. What happens to the babies, and if they are born, and then in terms of like ownership and vet care. And I know that that is something that you guys have had to deal with in the past.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So I think this is where I'm not going to put it on everybody else, but we have Path Lead with Compassion. We currently have a situation like that right now as we speak. And we have had situations. So one of the things that we do is let them know that we need to make sure that there's plans when when the animal gives birth, that we will allow for the weaning for I can't remember the exact time, but at least for a month. And then they'd have to make arrangements for the puppies to go elsewhere. So we do, I think this is the one where everybody's like, Monica, oh yes, yes, we do. We do allow for that. And I think, I think there's the humane and inhumane portion of it, and then there's the business portion of it. So there's all kinds of angles, and we've taken the stance of should somebody come in with an animal and they will be delivering, uh, say babies, depending on what type of animal. And we've had kittens that we will allow for them to be weaned for a specific period of time, and then they would have to. And we basically write it down almost like a contract so that they are aware.
Okay, thank you. So another question is about breed restrictions. And I know we can't see Sheena right now, but Sheena is a cute little pitty that Gae has. So I'm wondering if are you going to show us Sheena there? Ah, look at her sleeping. So sweet. So I'm wondering if you can speak to Path's policy on breeds.
We don't have one. We don't. We even have Great Danes. I mean, as big as horses, I feels like. We don't have breed restrictions. We have lots and lots of pit bulls and the sweetest ever. I think one thing that if I could probably answer to probably what somebody wants to ask, um, during the time when we are doing an intake, if we see aggressive behavior, we also have muzzles. I want to just be mindful of how I use that word. Um, so we do have harnesses, leashes. These are things that we have. And so if we know that an animal is aggressive and they have shared that there's a lot of trauma and there's aggressive behavior, what we do ask is if the animal, while they take the animal out in a common area to relieve themselves, that they can use the muzzle for a small period of time before they go either back into the room or their space or their crate, so that it prevents any kind of harm in the again, that is only knowing if there is aggressive behavior. Sheena's dog was like the path dog at the shelter. She was at everybody. Like, we even have this great picture of Sheena and her dog because during Halloween we had costumes for the animals. And so there was matching costumes with the owners, and so and they were all together in this room, partying for Halloween. So I just have to say that I think the animal intake is really important and having those muzzles and those resources to support the individual and the dog.
Yeah, thank you for. So then another question that came in, and I think you sort of alluded to this when you were talking about the pregnant animals and how that's handled. But one question was about, if there was a limit to the number of animals, like specifically written into the policies that you guys have.
I think we have one, and to be honest, I think we do not adhere to it, I'll be honest. Because sometimes we have somebody that has a cat and a dog, and I think most recently somebody had two dogs and three cats that came in, and one site was demobilizing, and this person was getting ready to be housed and extremely vulnerable. And what we said is, well, we have crates. There were two little, I think like Chihuahua dogs that were small. So what we do look at is we take into consideration the actual place where the actual individual will be going into. And Gae can speak more to this, but we have cubicle spaces and then we have rooms. Unfortunately, for cubicle spaces, that is where we have to get an understanding of what we can allow to come in due to fire and safety regulations. We cannot block, entryways, exit ways, emergency exits, or anything like that. So we're always constantly taking things into consideration. Like I said, problem solver. And kind of leading with a little bit of grace, knowing that we don't want to put people out and they die on the street because we couldn't figure some stuff out.
Yeah, I think when you were talking about like the Great Dane, clearly would need more room than a Chihuahua. And Gae, at any point when you were at Path, did you have to move spaces?
I did.
Yeah,
I
because of,
absolutely
yeah. So
did.
what can you like speak to that a little bit in terms of how, like where you were originally and then moving due probably to the size, I'm
Yes,
guessing?
absolutely. I was originally in a small, regular sized cubicle for one bed and a small dresser, and Sheena is a medium sized dog, and so it was hard for her to be able to move around, and I had to put her bed underneath my bed for her to have somewhere, enough room for her to lay and be comfortable. And it was very, 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 it was very uncomfortable for both of us. So, uh, once I had mentioned this issue to the staff, they immediately were looking for another arrangement for me. And right away, almost the next day, I was able to be moved into a bigger shelter. Excuse me, a bigger cubicle that was very, very big. It was like the size of a bedroom. And it was great because Sheena was able to move around and get all the activity that she needed. And there was space for me to move because I'm disabled. So it was enough space for me to have my walker, and it was great. They accommodated me in every way. I never had a problem with that. But yes, it was very necessary, and they stepped up to the plate when the time came to it.
And I think
Definitely.
that like kind of alludes back to the resourcefulness that we were talking about before in terms of like allergies and space needed that sometimes, musical beds a little bit to make sure that everyone's in the appropriate space for them and their pet.
Shoshana,
Yeah.
I want to just share one other important scenario that we've run into several times, and I think over the course of a few years that I've been in this space. There's been situations where animals, I mean, I remember someone looking like Garfield the cat, like huge. And um, the individual had a hard time, taking the animal out. We're still trying to get acclimated to cat litter and a number of different things. And at the same time, there was another individual who had a dog, and both what was the common theme with both of these individuals that they were frail and they had difficult time mobility constraints with getting the animals to go outside. And so one of the things that we did is we bought some, I was like, they're like, Monica, what can we do? We are buying pet strollers. So the individuals were able to quickly place the animals and then take them out. So I think that was another quick something that we were able to do. Again, it's not often, but it's like if we see people that have mobility constraints or difficulty taking the animal out, again, age, a number of different sort of considerations that we looked at, we were able to offer the pet strollers to get them out. So that was really helpful for the individuals, and we didn't have any of these issues with the animals now defecating in the shelter.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. And our time is up. That flew by for me, but our time is up. But thank you so much, Monica and Gae, for joining us, and Sheena for joining us. Oh, look who's awake. But anyway, so thank you so much. We really appreciate it, and we hope to see you more throughout the conference. Thanks so much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Mhm.
Chasing